All right, so first and foremost, I want to talk about something called the date value. And if there's one lecture you're going to listen to or one slide that you're going to read in this entire section, this is the one to pay attention to. And it's because the date value is the critical piece that allows Excel to process dates and times. So every date, in fact, every moment in time in Excel has an associated underlying numerical date value. That's how Excel is able to do things like calculate the passage of time or apply statistical functions to dates. Without those date values, dates would kind of just be treated like text fields. You wouldn't really be able to do much in terms of manipulation with those dates. So midnight on January 1st, 1900 is treated as, I guess, the beginning of time in Excel's universe. So January 1st, 1900 has an underlying date value of 1, and then every subsequent day beyond January 1st, 1900 has a date value one number higher. So January 2nd, 1900 has a date value of 2, and so on and so forth. So Excel is actually really, really smart about dates, and then it recognizes most typed dates and automatically applies a common date format. In most cases, it will be month/day/year with 4 digits, along with its associated date value. Now, the way to check if your entry is recognized as a date is to right-click, go into cell format, and switch to general, and it will show you if there's an underlying date value. So I'll show you an example of that right now. If I jump into just a blank workbook here, I'm going to type in a date by hand. I'm going to do January 1st, 2015, press enter. And now if I right-click A1, go into Format Cells, as you can see, it defaults to the date field. This is the default version, day, month, year. But if I switch to the general category, you can see that it has an underlying value of 42,005 because it's the day that's fallen 42,005 days after January 1st, 1900. So that tells me that, okay, Excel has recognized my entry as a date. I can treat it as such. It's also pretty good about understanding kind of strangely formatted ones. So I could say like 01-01-15, and you can see that it switched it over to the default version because it knew I was trying to type a date. And you can actually get like a little bit weird with it. You know, I like to kind of test to see how strange I can get. See, even that version where I typed it as, you know, dash and combination of dashes and slashes, it still recognized it as a date and it still applied that date value to it. So Excel is actually pretty smart when it comes to those things, and that's kind of the core reason why you're able to do such interesting manipulations and calculations against dates. So if you happen to type a date that Excel doesn't recognize, one common example that I've seen is if you type a series of numbers like date, month, day. So for January 1st, 2015, again, if you typed 2015-01-01 with no dashes or slashes, Excel would not recognize that as a date, and so it wouldn't apply an underlying date value, and it would treat it as a text string, or in this case, a value. So if that's the case, like if I download some data and the date field is in a very strange format like that, I'll show you how to use tools like date value or time value to convert those unformatted dates into formats that Excel understands. So looking at some examples down here, again, January 1st, 1900 is date 1, so date value equals 1. 10 days later, on the 11th in 1900, would have a date value of 11. February 6th is 42,041 days after January 1st, 1900. And these date values don't have to be whole numbers. In fact, 42,041.5 equates to noon on February 6th, whereas 42,041.75 equates to 6 p.m., which is 75% of the way through the day. So you can get very granular, even down to the second, and that's how you can start working with very particular times in Excel, not just whole dates. So hopefully that helps. Once you understand this concept of date value, suddenly everything becomes a bit more clear when we start talking about actually manipulating and applying functions to these dates.